Hey guys, Basil and Will with Grayson Hobby, and we have a follow-up video. We don't do many of those.
So a lot of you guys asked in the videos to explain more about the receivers from RadioMaster, what kind of servos they use, etc.
VBat, what the heck's
VBat, yeah, what is that? So we're going to go over that, and specifically we're going to go over the 168 today because this is the most feature-packed receiver of the group, so we can cover a little bit of everything in it.
Yep. So in this video, we're going to go over the essentials, the mandatory steps for this receiver, how to bind it, what servos, and I know you guys don't like it, some of you, frequency tuning.
Yeah, you got to do it, guys. With the multi-module and all that, you got to do it.
Then we're going to go over some optional features, but why not do them? Optional, you don't need to do this, but you have kind of like, what's the point? VBat.
Yeah.
RSSI, and for bonus, we're going to show you how to put an alarm on your VBat with your radio, in your radio, so when you're flying around your airplane, your alarm will go off or a voice, some kind of a signal.
Yes.
Will tell you.
So you don't have to look at your screen.
Time to land. So.
And that'll work with pretty much anything running OpenTX.
Yep.
Just menus might be different, but we're going to show you on this guy because it's pretty.
All right, here's the video. Okay, like always, if you find value in this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, every little purchase you make from Grayson Hobby helps support this channel. Either a pack of props, pack of quads, and a pack of radios. Everything you see here ships from Atlanta. We got a huge warehouse. Everything is located here. We don't do no drop shipping, and it's about 2 to 3 days normally to pretty much the whole eastern border side of the U.S.
Yep.
Also, be sure to check out our Facebook group. Link is below. We got lots of guys helping each other out. Will and I sometimes are on there, sometimes we're not. So. Okay, question that came up last video. What kind of servos can I use with this?
Okay, so the 168, the R84, etc. They use a standard servo plug. So this is like a JR universal style servo plug.
Okay.
All your 9 grams for the most part, standard servos, etc. So whether it be JR, high-tech, Futaba, etc. will plug in.
So we have a full-size servo, we have a little micro servo,
now,
we have these.
But as long as it's got the 3-pin, I believe this is actually called a Molex connector. This is your standard servo plug.
Yep.
Some of them have little tabs on the side on the signal, and this is cut out for those tabs as well.
Okay, so if you have tabs, that's good. If you don't,
it's just a polarity. It's just so you don't plug it in backwards, kind of. That's what they did.
All right. So basically, any servo, basically
all your standard servos. 99.9% of the servos on the market are going to use this plug, unless they're a specialty servo of some micro descent. All right. So what we got here is the R168 receiver. We're going to show you guys how to bind it real quick. And so this is your receiver. We need a speed control or power supply of some sort, roughly 5 volts works best. The speed control puts out 5 volts on the BEC, so we're going to plug that in, and you'll see the negative, positive signal. Signal is going to go towards the bottom, opposite of the yellow. So I'm just going to plug that into channel 1. So now we have that there. And in order to bind it, we do need to set up the radio. So moving over the radio, you need to make sure... And this is a RadioMaster, but it'll work with anything OpenTX that runs multi. We got the multi-module. I've got the internal RF on right now. Multi-module, select it, free sky, and then D16, because this receiver is a D16 receiver. And then we're going to go down. You can assign your receiver number if you have multiple models. So I'm going to assign this. Oh, I got that used on something. Return. All right, let's go a little higher on the numbers here, guys. Okay. And then, so whatever number you need to there, so it's not, overlapping something else. And now we're ready to bind. So from here, I'm going to get the receiver into bind mode, and I'm going to push the button right here. And actually, I'm going to do it in a way you guys can see the LED. So push and hold the button, turn it on. So the battery's plugged in. Now we have a red and green light. I don't know if you guys can see that in there.
Cannot, but we'll get more about that later.
Okay, there's a red and green light.
Okay.
So now moving back to the radio, I'm going to press bind, and then telemetry 1 through 8, because it's an 8-channel receiver. Telemetry on, so we can get the RSSI and all that. So that, it's binding, and then you'll see in the receiver that red light will be blinking. So the blinking means it's binding.
Okay.
So then you can cancel the bind or hit return, or wait a few seconds, it'll go away.
Okay.
And it is bound, but what we need to do is power cycle. So you can either unplug the receiver, plug it in, unplug the battery, plug it back in, whatever you want to do. But you need to power cycle the receiver, and once you've... You'll see here, and this is a little battery option. This is a telemetry widget that we set up. We'll go over that in a minute.
And then also, how are you doing power really easy?
So in order... are you talking about VBat, or are you talking about...
VBat the switch.
Oh, this is the bind buddy.
Okay.
So this is you guys seen in prior videos. I was just doing this so it's easier for the video.
So if you're by yourself, You hold the button in, and then with the other hand you flip the switch. It's a lot easier than plugging the XT60.
Yeah, this is a great little option to free up a hand.
Imagine that was with Dean's. Trying to get by yourself.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
All right, so cool. So that's how you bind it. That's not optional. That's mandatory.
So that's basically, you have to bind this thing. The other thing, once you bind it, you really do want to do frequency calibration because it doesn't auto-detect the frequency tuning on the multi-modules.
And that's with every OpenTX or multi-module.
That's with pretty much anything multi-module, yeah.
The jumper, RadioMaster.
In the future, we may see that. They are working on it, but as of right now, it does not automatically tune the frequency, so you do need to go back and do that. And we have a video on that.
Yeah, show us the screen, and then we'll refer back to the other video. All right, so this is in this radio setup, right? Or the model setup? Yeah,
so we're going to go back to the model setup. We're going to go under where we bound it for the frequency tune, and I'm just going to start low. You can start high, it doesn't matter, but you're going to find the range at which it loses signal.
And you'll know by how?
It will tell. The RSI will go to 0 in a second.
Okay.
And I'm seeing the light flicker here, so I'm getting close. Getting real close. It's dropping. Should lose it any second now. And
telemetry lost.
Okay, now this is going to be slower to detect than just looking at the light.
Battery. Telemetry recovered.
So you're focusing on when it loses signal.
Yeah.
And
all right, negative 59.
Okay.
So I'm going to go the other way. And I usually try to go around the same amount.
Telemetry lost. Low. Battery. Telemetry recovered. Telemetry lost.
So 72 and
negative 59.
So adding the negative number together and the positive number and dividing by 2, we get a number of, the calculator says 6.5. So we're going to take 6.5 and just go close. I'm going to go to 7. You can go either 6 or 7. It doesn't really matter.
Telemetry recovered.
Now we're going to go back here.
I thought it would be a little closer since it's RadioMaster, but whatever.
So I'm going to go to 7 here because it's we don't have that decimal point anyway. But now that I got that set, we need to rebind. So I'm going to turn the receiver off, hold the button again, power up, put in bind mode.
Telemetry lost.
And I'm going to go bind, telemetry on, binding the receiver. And
sound.
It's bound, and then I'm going to power cycle.
Low. Battery. Telemetry
so that's the critical part there. You need to bind it, you need to calibrate it, and then...
And you need servos.
You need servos to plug in.
Okay, so those 3 steps, those are going to be the mandatory steps you need to do for this guy, the R168, and probably the same for the R88, except R88. So those 3, you have to tune everything. We're going to put a link below on a detailed video on that one. But mandatory, servos, binding, and frequency tuning. Now, Will and I are going to show you the kind of optional telemetry cool things.
Now, this is where this receiver comes into play on top of other receivers from the RadioMaster line. The R168 has the option for S-Bus, S-Port, RSSI, and VBat. The VBat is up to 18 volts. So we do not have the ability to run 6-cell VBat, etc. You're stuck with 4-cell or less.
Which is great for parkflyers.
Yeah.
Meteor.
So a high voltage 4-cell is going to hit 18 volts.
And you know what? That would have helped us a ton when we did that video on the Meteor, because brand new plane to us.
And that's the best part of it, is when you do have a brand new plane and all that, or something that you're not experienced with how long it's going to fly. Now you have the ability to get voltage back to your radio to give you a better estimate instead of just flying on a timer and hope it's not too long. So the first thing I'm going to show you, because this is basically, we're going to not talk about S-Bus or S-Port for the moment. This is more plane-based setup. So in order to get that VBat setting, you are going to need to either solder or make an adapter of some sort.
And we have adapters on the way.
And to show you what we're talking about, you need a single pin connection going to VBat. And VBat is right, if I can plug it in, 1, 2, 3, 4 pins over. Like so.
Okay. And that is just basically coming off the power lead off of the
so
ESC.
This is a single servo wire. So you can take an old servo extension, cut it off at one end, trim it down, whatever you got to do. Like I just cut a 3-pin down to a single pin here, and run this down. And then on your positive lead, it's going to go right there. So I just piggybacked it on my positive lead here.
Perfect. Okay.
And that's all you need to do, because that's how it's going to sense the voltage on the hot side, because it has a common ground. If you're using a standalone battery pack, stuff like that, basically there needs to be both a ground in line, and this is considered the positive lead for the VBat, but since we have the speed control plugged into the battery and everything, we do have a ground in there. So realistically, for 99% of the setups, you're just going to need this one wire here tapped into your power lead. Now, the one thing here is you are not going to be able to get receiver voltage and LiPo battery voltage here. So if you are running a flight pack to a BEC, typically BECs are going to maintain their voltage no matter what, even when the battery is fully depleted, until the battery is fully depleted. So realistically, this is the most important battery thing. If you're running a nitro plane or a plane that doesn't use a LiPo battery for power, or it doesn't have a power system, it's just like a receiver battery, that's when you can piggyback off the receiver, like your switch or something like that, and run that to get VBat. So this would, instead of running to your LiPo battery, it would run to your flight pack, powering everything.
Whatever plugs in.
So the only way to get battery telemetry is the sensor is going to read, and I'm going to show you that real quick.
Okay.
So we're going to go over to model, and then we're going to scroll over to telemetry, and you're going to see the discovered sensors. You do need to typically discover new sensors. A lot of times these 4 will automatically come up. If you don't see them, just discover new sensors and then stop. Like I'll press it here and then stop discovery. But you'll see the battery voltage displays as RxBat. Now, I've already calibrated this one, but chances are when you first bind it and set it up, you're going to get the wrong battery voltage. So, like, the precision is going to be like this, and your number's probably going to look more like somewhere in there.
Well, how do I know?
So, when you set it up,
how do I know?
You need to check it.
Yeah.
So, this is the software part of the setup.
Okay.
So, you'll need a cell checker of some sort. Plug it into your flight pack, or
Could you
whatever.
even use like a multimeter?
You can use a multimeter if that's what you have. I'm going to use this because the display is nice and easy to read for you guys. So we're looking at 12.11 volts here.
Okay.
Obviously, the more accurate this is, the more accurate you can make the radio. But right now, you can see the sensor is reading 6.1 volts. So we need to change, and I'm going to change my precision to a second decimal place here. So all I got to do is click precision and then move it over. I wouldn't go super crazy or anything like that. Like, I mean, that's pointless if you just want basic voltage, but realistically...
2 decimals is all you need. Yeah.
Which, that's as far as it goes, actually. It doesn't go any farther. Ratio, so you're just going to turn that up. And the number we're looking for, guys, on this particular one is 12.11 volts. So we're going to just raise this number, and it takes a second to catch up. But we're going to raise the number here until we get to the 12.11, or as close as we possibly can.
Now this is in the model setup?
This is in telemetry page under model.
Under
setup,
model,
yes.
okay. So every receiver you have, you're going to have to do this adjustments.
Yeah. Ooh, I went too far. So,
and this is a one-time setup.
Yeah, this is, I mean, per receiver. The receiver, as long as you use the same receiver. If you change receivers, you're going to have to redo it again because each receiver is going to read a little different. What we had, 12.1.
Battery.
So it looks like the closest we can get, either a little higher or a little lower in this case. So I'm going to go a hair higher. Not a big deal there.
Okay. So we changed the precision and changed the
offset. If we lower the precision, like if you that's just bothering you, you can lower the precision.
Battery.
And look, now we're at 12.1. But I'm going to leave it.
Which matches that. So awesome.
So I'm going to leave it in the second decimal place and just double check that.
Battery.
Yeah. So you could probably play with the offset a little bit too if you really, really, really wanted to.
Battery.
That's getting literally really fancy. So now we set that. We set the offset. We got 12.11 volts, 12.11 volts.
Perfect. So now our VBat is set up.
Yeah. So now we got that there, and I'm just going to exit out of that. So now it's calibrated. RSSI, I already have. These are just widgets on the screen that you can set up. I just put that there so you guys can see it. You can further set, low voltage alarms. That way you don't have to look down at your radio while you're flying. You can literally have an audible alert to yourself.
Let's do it.
I'm going to show you what we have here.
Yeah.
And I'll explain it briefly, but you will have to dig through menus and stuff like that.
Yep.
So we're going to go to model. And for the battery setup, battery alarm, we're going to go over to logical switches. And the first logical switch is A is less than X. receiver battery, RxBat is the telemetry sensor we're looking for. I set the alarm to 12.13. It was.
That's for, hold on a sec. So this is capable.
This is just for testing.
Right,
yeah.
but this is capable of 2S, 3S, and 4S. So, in your opinion, what
you would need to set it for whatever battery you're using, because obviously you don't want to set it for a 3-cell and then fly a 4-cell.
Right, because the alarm will be going off the whole time. So, what do you recommend?
Well, no, never go off. You just crash.
Right. So, what do you recommend for the settings, the alarm?
That's very dependent on the person. Some people fly their batteries down to like 3.3 per cell. Some fly 3.5 per cell.
So, would I do 3.3 times the number of cells?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's on the low. I would probably set mine a little higher. That way I know, hey, let's start landing. Yeah. So I'd probably set it 3.5 per cell in the case of a 3-cell. What was that? 369, 10.5?
Yeah.
Right?
Basically, take 3.5, multiply it by the number of cells of your pack, and then set that to your voltage.
Yeah.
So in this case,
for a 3-cell, we could set that like 10.5. Why does that seem low?
Okay, so 10.5 is going to be your alarm level. However, you're never going to hear it. In this case.
So we set the logical switches, and this is what we want to happen. Now we need to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's where you go to special functions. The logical switch, you're going to select. You're going to go over and select it. So you'll select whatever you need to do.
Battery.
And that's the logical switch. And then you want it to play a track, so you'll select whatever you need to do, play a track.
You also play sound, but the tracks are pretty much going to be the way to go.
And then, in this case, we need to find low battery, and this is a really long list.
And if you don't have that sound tracks, I think this is the Amber soundtrack. I don't know.
It's the default one on the RadioMaster. This is what it comes with.
Okay.
And then you can make it play once. You can play it every second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, etc.
I like 5 seconds. That way I get really nervous.
If you want an annoying at you kind of thing.
That way I get really nervous and force my landing and usually crash.
Yeah. So you can set that or one time, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But setting that up, that will give you
an alarm.
The track. Yeah.
It'll play that alarm, low battery, every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So that's
all you need to do on that one.
Okay.
And then that would set up the alarm.
So real quick, those are the widgets. You mentioned that. So we have the voltage widget, and we have our
widgets are done through hold telemetry down, click which one you want it to be. In this case, this is the 2-plane one that we're going to. And then you just go back, and then you go to setup widgets, and then I'm going to select here, and you can do different things. I don't know if the bat check works because it's RxBat, not VBat. Yeah.
Okay, so that's how you do your widgets. Just get play around your menu.
So I selected the, and now I got to select what I want it to be. In this case, I want RxBat. There. Return. So now we got that.
Okay.
And you can do the same thing with RSSI. If you just want simple, if you want more fancy stuff, you can spend days setting up just your telemetry screens and widgets and all that. There's a lot of stuff you can do with these radios. So.
Real quick, jump to the telemetry screen and let's show them how the alarm for RSSI is pretty much already programmed.
Oh, yes. Okay, so the RSSI is pretty much already in there, is what he's saying. And if you go back, and that's telemetry, the source is default, and then low alarm, critical alarm. And you can change that. If you find that it's giving you false positives and all that, or false lows, you can lower it, etc.
I leave mine in default. Nice. I never have an RSSI.
I usually set my critical a little lower, but teach their own.
Yeah, I never have an RSSI problem on an airplane.
Yeah.
Okay, just to be clear, the telemetry, the widget, the alarm, both VBat, or not VBat, but I guess the flight pack, and the RSSI alarms are all optional. You don't need those.
As soon as you bind it, you're going to get RSSI alarms audible on your radio if you have sound pack on your radio. But that will come default. You don't really have to do anything. But if you do want battery voltage, you do have to add the additional wire for the sensor. And then you do have to set it up and calibrate it if you want it to work properly.
I personally think that's an awesome feature. I would do it. Spend 5 minutes doing it.
Yeah, for the little bit of time it takes to set up, absolutely. Knowing your flight pack voltage while flying is that's just such a reassurance in the air.
I can't tell you, when we fly in the Meteor, check link below or above, we didn't know how long to fly because a brand new airplane with a brand new motor to us. And we flying it for 5 minutes, and we could have flew it for a lot longer. So I wish we had this when we did the Meteor. Anything else?
That's pretty much it, guys. I mean, that's everything.
All right.
The only other thing is Failsafe, but it's covered here.
All right, you cannot mention Failsafe and not show us. So show us Failsafe.
Okay,
Oh,
so
look at
failsafe
that.
is not set. I guess we'll set it.
You have to set it because that is annoying every time.
Battery.
So I'm going to return there.
Okay.
We're going to go to model, and there's various ways to set it up, but
Darn
you can tell I fly a lot of drones because I don't really set this much. I don't do planes. Yes, you want that. Failsafe. You can do hold. You can do a custom, like set like certain channels to do certain functions.
I want to do
no pulses to where it's just nothing.
I want to do no throttle. And I want to do all neutral positions.
I would just do receiver, but I mean, no pulses is nothing. That's inert. I like the receiver one, and the receiver one, once you set that, you literally set your sticks to where you want, no throttle, neutral stick, and everything.
Exactly how you want it.
And then you, with it powered up, push the bind button one time, it flashes twice. Ta-da! It's set.
All right.
Simple as that. If you want to play with other failsafe styles and all that, if you like a different style, the little manual does tell you exactly how to set each one up.
Okay.
It tells you what they do.
But that's the easiest one.
I like that one because
that one. Oh wait,
that way my throttle's killed, etc.
So if you had an airplane with gear or flaps, you have to set those switches.
You could set the gear down and all that. Yeah.
So when you did that failsafe, each switch is also going to take the signal, right? So if you gear down, gear up, flaps down.
So if you have the gear up, if you have the motor killed, etc., all that there. However, yes, this is by pushing this button. It's whatever this radio is currently set to, whether the throttle's up or down. Which obviously I don't think you want it full throttle when you have a failsafe.
But I would want my gear up. That way, if I do come down, it's not going to rip the gear off.
Yeah. So I mean, that's when you just hit your gear switch and suck it up.
And I would have flaps down. If I had flaps. Because this one you can. You have 8 channels. Holy moly! What am I going to do with all 8 channels?
Lots of stuff.
Yep. All right, just to be clear, this unit does not have a gyro, but you can easily add a gyro through the S-Bus. And if you want to see how to do that, comment below. You want to see a gyro setup. These Dynamo ones are pretty cool. We did one on the GPS unit. Links up there. We used the Spectrum one, but this will be the Free Sky version. D18. D16.
D16.
Love the receiver. I can't wait to put on my stuff. I'm going to hook up a Dynamo gyro to it because I don't need one, but I want to put it anyway. The size is great. The price is phenomenal. VBat finally, because we had other brands of receivers for airplanes that didn't really give us a good VBat or battery pack.
Or you had to buy a really expensive little telemetry module like a TM1000 or whatever Spectrum.
So highly recommend. Pick up a one, pick up 2, pick up one for you and your buddy and everybody else you know.
If you're running a radio that supports it. If you have a Spectrum radio, it does not work.
What he said.